Your 30s are different. Not louder, not dramatic, but heavier. There are fewer experiments now, more consequences.
More visible gaps between where you are and where you thought you would be.
And that quiet pressure creates a dangerous illusion. The illusion that you are behind. But most people in their 30s are not behind. They are structurally unclear. There is a difference. In your 20s, confusion is normal. Exploration is expected. Instability is tolerated. In your 30s, instability feels threatening. Because this decade is not about discovery. It is about foundation. The real shift from your 20s to your 30s is this. You are no longer testing life. You are constructing it. And construction requires architecture. Without architecture, pressure feels personal. With architecture, pressure becomes information. Most people feel overwhelmed in their 30s because they are still operating on emotional frameworks. They chase motivation. They compare milestones. They panic about speed. They react to circumstances. But your 30s demand something else. Design. Let's break this down structurally. There are 5 foundational layers in your 30s. Financial structure. Skill leverage. Health sustainability. Relational standards. Decision architecture. If even one of these layers is weak, pressure multiplies. Not because life is unfair, but because structure is incomplete. Let's talk about money first. In your 30s, income matters. But structure matters more. If money comes and goes, it is rarely an income problem. It is a system problem. Tracking. Automation. Investment discipline. Money that is not structured will not stay. Now skills. Your 30s are where earning power compounds. Not through random hustle. Through specialization. Depth creates leverage. Leverage creates stability. Scattered effort creates exhaustion. Next, health. In your 20s, you could ignore recovery. In your 30s, neglect compounds. Energy is capital. If your energy declines, your earning power declines. Your clarity declines. Your patience declines. Health is no longer optional. It is structural. Now relationships. In your 30s, emotional chaos is expensive. Time is limited. Energy is finite. Standards must rise. Compatibility is not chemistry alone. It is shared direction. Finally, decision architecture. This is the most overlooked layer. Most instability in your 30s comes from inconsistent decision standards. When your criteria change with your emotions, your life becomes unpredictable. Structure fixes that. Defined financial rules. Defined time boundaries. Defined relationship standards. Defined risk tolerance. Defined long-term vision. Clarity reduces anxiety. Now let's address comparison. Social media amplifies timeline pressure. Marriage. Income. business success, property ownership. But comparison ignores context. Different starting points, different responsibilities, different risk tolerance, different values. Your only valid comparison is structural progress. Are your systems stronger than last year? Are your standards clearer? Is your income more stable? Is your health more disciplined? Is your decision-making more rational? That is progress, not speed. Your 30s are not about proving. They're about positioning. Positioning for your 40s. This is the decade where you choose chaos or control, reaction or architecture, impulse or discipline. No one builds stability accidentally. It is engineered. And this is where affirmations become powerful. Not as emotional comfort, but as cognitive repetition. Repetition strengthens perception. Perception shapes decisions. Decisions create outcomes. If your internal dialogue is unstable, your external results will be unstable. Tonight, we recalibrate that dialogue. We reinforce long-term thinking, financial discipline, health consistency, clear standards, strategic patience. This is not motivation. This is structural conditioning. Your 30s can become your strongest decade, not because it is easy, but because it is intentional. You are no longer drifting. You are designing. And design requires clarity, not hype. If this philosophy resonates with you, if you prefer structure over hype, discipline over dopamine, design over luck, subscribe and participate. Now, settle your posture. Slow your breathing. Release comparison. We begin reinforcing your foundation. Let's start. I prioritize long-term stability over short-term validation. I build systems before I chase results. I measure progress in years, not weeks. My decisions align with my future self. I reduce noise and strengthen focus. I design structure before seeking growth. Consistency matters more than intensity. I respond with strategy, not emotion. I choose durable progress over dramatic change. Stability is something I construct. I clarify my financial standards. I track what I spend and why. I save intentionally, not accidentally. I build income skills that compound over time. I separate ego from financial decisions. I invest in knowledge that strengthens my base. I avoid lifestyle inflation without structure. I define what enough means for me. I make money decisions with logic first. I build wealth slowly and deliberately. My health is a long-term asset. I maintain habits that protect my energy. Sleep is discipline, not indulgence. I train consistency over motivation. I reduce behaviors that drain my focus. I protect my physical foundation. I respect recovery as strategy. I eat with intention, not impulse. I value sustainable routines. My body supports my long-term goals. I define my non-negotiables. I set boundaries calmly and clearly. I choose relationships aligned with my standards. I do not chase validation. I communicate expectations directly. I protect my time intentionally. I build mutual respect, not dependency. I observe patterns before reacting. I detach from unnecessary drama. I value emotional stability over excitement. I accept responsibility for my structure. I stop blaming circumstances for inconsistency. I review my decisions objectively. I correct mistakes without self-destruction. I strengthen my discipline daily. I avoid comparison traps. I compete with my past patterns. I refine instead of restarting. I build clarity through reflection. I operate from intention. I think in decades, not days. I invest in long-term positioning. I reduce distractions that dilute growth. I build resilience through routine. I strengthen focus by limiting options. I make fewer but better decisions. I design my environment to support consistency. I eliminate habits that sabotage progress. I act based on values, not moods. I build a life that can sustain pressure. I choose depth over speed. I prefer steady progress over unstable peaks. I build skills that remain valuable. I refine my thinking regularly. I detach from urgency and move with clarity. I commit fully once I decide. I reduce impulsive decisions. I align daily actions with long-term design. I treat time as a structural asset. I build leverage patiently. I strengthen my internal standards. I operate with quiet confidence. I trust process over hype. I choose preparation over panic. I replace reaction with evaluation. I focus on controllable variables. I maintain financial awareness. I protect my mental clarity. I reinforce consistency every day. I build habits that outlast motivation. I create stability that supports expansion. I construct a foundation that compounds. I move deliberately, not desperately. I simplify where possible. I remove what weakens structure. I think before committing. I finish what strengthens my base. I value alignment over approval. I choose discipline over distraction. I build a life designed for durability. I build financial clarity through consistent review. I choose delayed gratification over impulsive reward. I strengthen my income streams with skill development. I prioritize savings as a non-negotiable habit. I reduce financial noise and focus on fundamentals. I build assets before upgrading lifestyle. I measure financial growth objectively. I design systems that protect against instability. I commit to disciplined financial tracking. I treat money as a responsibility, not a mood. I protect my energy to protect my earning power. I eliminate distractions that reduce productivity. I improve my value in the marketplace consistently. I refine one high-income skill at a time. I invest in education that compounds. I avoid trends that lack structural logic. I focus on sustainable income, not temporary spikes. I understand risk before taking it. I respect liquidity as strategy. I strengthen my financial patience. I think strategically about career positioning. I build leverage through specialization. I reduce dependency on single sources of stability. I negotiate with clarity, not insecurity. I accept responsibility for my growth trajectory. I choose skill depth over scattered effort. I build professional credibility deliberately. I improve systems before increasing workload. I operate with long-term vision. I evaluate opportunities rationally. I reduce emotional spending patterns. I pause before financial commitments. I define my financial boundaries clearly. I detach identity from material display. I align purchases with long-term design. I simplify expenses intentionally. I automate savings where possible. I protect my future from short-term ego. I track progress without obsession. I build consistency through small wins. I strengthen my health to protect productivity. I maintain sleep discipline consistently. I protect mornings for clarity. I reduce digital overload. I schedule recovery strategically. I train resilience through routine. I design my environment to reduce friction. I remove habits that weaken structure. I protect focus as a valuable asset. I build sustainable work rhythms. I clarify my relationship standards. I communicate boundaries calmly. I choose respect over temporary excitement. I observe compatibility through behavior. I reduce reactive communication. I invest in emotionally stable connections. I protect time for meaningful priorities. I detach from validation seeking. I build trust through consistency. I choose maturity over impulse. I reflect weekly on my structural progress. I adjust systems instead of abandoning them. I track habits objectively. I remove inefficiencies methodically. I refine before expanding. I value clarity over urgency. I build mental resilience deliberately. I train myself to act despite discomfort. I replace comparison with construction. I strengthen internal standards. I simplify decision-making frameworks. I reduce unnecessary commitments. I protect long-term goals from short-term pressure. I invest attention wisely. I choose responsibility over excuses. I respond to stress with structure. I think before reacting. I evaluate outcomes objectively. I learn from patterns without self-attack. I prioritize alignment over approval. I build stability before scale. I strengthen foundations before expansion. I focus on controllable variables. I remove emotional volatility from decisions. I build habits that outlast motivation. I protect financial integrity. I commit to durable progress. I move deliberately under pressure. I construct my life intentionally. I strengthen structure every day. I design my week before it begins. I schedule priorities before distractions appear. I protect deep work without apology. I reduce meetings that dilute focus. I batch low-value tasks strategically. I build routines that remove decision fatigue. I measure output, not busyness. I refine workflows for efficiency. I simplify processes regularly. I eliminate repetition through automation. I allocate income with a defined ratio. I invest consistently, regardless of emotion. I study markets before committing capital. I avoid speculation without structure. I separate savings from spending accounts. I review financial goals quarterly. I build credit deliberately and responsibly. I protect my downside before chasing upside. I diversify income with logic, not fear. I let compounding work through patience. I strengthen negotiation skills through preparation. I document progress objectively. I build a reputation for reliability. I deliver before I demand. I seek feedback without defensiveness. I correct performance gaps immediately. I expand capacity before expanding commitments. I build networks based on value exchange. I invest in long-term professional relationships. I align career decisions with strategic positioning. I train emotional regulation daily. I pause before responding under stress. I observe triggers without surrendering to them. I detach ego from disagreement. I resolve conflict through clarity. I avoid escalation without purpose. I build calm authority in conversation. I choose reason over impulse. I strengthen composure through repetition. I maintain standards without aggression. I treat time as a capital asset. I decline invitations that weaken structure. I schedule reflection deliberately. I conduct personal reviews monthly. I measure growth against defined metrics. I remove activities without return. I focus on high-leverage decisions. I replace random effort with targeted action. I protect attention from fragmentation. I think in strategic layers. I upgrade my environment intentionally. I design workspaces for productivity. I reduce clutter to increase clarity. I organize tools for efficiency.
I maintain systems with discipline.
I simplify wardrobe to reduce decisions. I optimize mornings for control. I protect evenings for restoration. I structure weekends for recalibration. I maintain rhythm under pressure. I analyze failures without emotional collapse. I extract lessons systematically. I correct patterns quickly. I strengthen weak links deliberately. I rebuild systems instead of blaming outcomes. I evaluate risk with clarity. I calculate downside before commitment. I avoid decisions under emotional spikes. I protect long-term direction from temporary emotion. I think like an architect of my life. I choose partnerships that elevate structure. I build relationships on mutual standards. I communicate expectations explicitly. I reinforce boundaries consistently. I detach from chaotic environments. I protect mental clarity from negativity. I value stability over excitement. I strengthen trust through transparency. I reduce drama through directness. I align personal life with long-term design. I invest in health as performance strategy. I maintain strength through consistency. I schedule training like business meetings. I track recovery as seriously as effort. I manage stress through structured habits. I limit substances that reduce clarity. I eat for sustained energy. I hydrate deliberately. I protect cognitive performance daily. I build stamina for long-term execution. I move forward without needing applause. I focus on internal metrics. I refine quietly and consistently. I build discipline through repetition. I strengthen identity through action. I design progress without noise. I trust structured momentum. I protect foundations before scaling. I operate with long-term conviction. I build a life engineered for durability. I eliminate financial ambiguity. I define clear wealth targets with timelines. I review net worth consistently. I build assets that generate cash flow. I avoid debt that weakens leverage. I use debt only with strategic intent. I calculate risk before committing capital. I build liquidity buffers deliberately. I strengthen long-term investment discipline. I focus on ownership over consumption. I increase income through skill stacking. I refine one core expertise deeply. I monetize competence, not attention. I choose mastery over multitasking. I position myself for asymmetric upside. I avoid chasing unstable trends. I prioritize long-term market value. I build credibility before visibility. I expand capacity before expanding lifestyle. I operate with financial maturity. I define my life architecture clearly. I separate goals from ego. I align daily effort with decade vision. I reduce decisions that do not serve direction. I remove habits that weaken structure. I simplify to increase clarity. I commit fully once direction is chosen. I measure actions against long-term alignment. I protect focus as a strategic resource. I move with deliberate precision. I structure my mornings for control. I begin the day with intention. I avoid reactive consumption early. I protect the first hour for clarity. I review priorities before activity. I define 3 essential outcomes daily. I execute high-value tasks first. I reduce scattered attention. I build momentum through completion. I close each day with review. I detach from urgency culture. I reject comparison timelines. I build at my sustainable pace. I choose depth over noise. I maintain internal pace under pressure. I act without seeking approval. I build quietly and consistently. I let structure speak for results. I strengthen confidence through execution. I replace doubt with disciplined action. I evaluate relationships by alignment. I invest in mature communication. I remove dynamics that drain stability. I strengthen bonds through reliability. I clarify expectations early. I protect long-term compatibility. I avoid emotional dependency patterns. I choose partners who value structure. I reinforce boundaries calmly. I build relationships designed for durability. I design my environment for success. I reduce visual distractions. I organize financial documents systematically. I maintain calendar discipline. I automate recurring decisions. I protect planning time weekly. I audit commitments quarterly. I remove projects without strategic return. I allocate energy intentionally. I build systems that reduce chaos. I strengthen emotional discipline. I pause before financial decisions. I detach identity from income fluctuations. I view setbacks as data. I avoid catastrophic thinking. I reinforce rational evaluation. I correct errors without drama. I maintain stability under uncertainty. I respond with structure, not panic. I cultivate long-term composure. I train consistency, regardless of mood. I execute commitments even when motivation fades. I maintain habits through systems. I build resilience through repetition. I trust structured routines. I reduce emotional volatility in planning. I choose clarity over intensity. I act from standards, not feelings. I value steady progress over spikes. I reinforce discipline daily. I construct a life that compounds. I protect foundations before expansion. I prioritize sustainability over speed. I build leverage intentionally. I refine before scaling. I move strategically, not emotionally. I protect what I build. I design outcomes through structure. I strengthen alignment continuously. I build a 30s foundation that supports my 40s. I operate from defined principles. I clarify what I stand for financially. I define my long-term earning ceiling and work toward it. I protect my capital with discipline. I build wealth with patience and structure. I do not rush financial milestones. I build credibility before visibility. I choose sustainability over excitement. I track performance without ego. I focus on durable positioning. I reinforce internal leadership. I take ownership of every decision. I remove blame from my vocabulary. I evaluate my weaknesses objectively. I upgrade skills without hesitation. I strengthen decision-making frameworks. I build confidence through competence. I operate with calculated courage. I train clarity under pressure. I build authority through consistency. I reduce financial friction. I automate savings and investments. I review expenses with objectivity. I remove unnecessary subscriptions. I eliminate wasteful habits. I build systems that simplify money management. I protect cash flow stability. I separate personal and growth capital. I maintain emergency resilience. I strengthen liquidity intentionally. I manage stress through structure. I avoid reactive commitments. I reduce emotional decision cycles. I protect sleep as strategic recovery. I maintain disciplined work hours. I schedule deep recovery periods. I limit overstimulation. I protect long-term energy reserves. I manage workload with realism. I avoid burnout through planning. I strengthen relationship standards. I choose maturity over chemistry alone. I communicate expectations early. I define shared, long-term direction. I avoid unstable dynamics. I protect emotional stability. I align relationships with growth. I detach from chaos quickly. I build partnerships based on shared discipline. I invest in trust deliberately. I refine my career trajectory quarterly. I track skill growth objectively. I increase professional leverage yearly. I seek responsibility that strengthens value. I reject stagnation. I expand competence deliberately. I position myself for advancement. I negotiate with preparation. I maintain professional composure. I build strategic career momentum. I protect attention like capital. I limit passive consumption. I avoid constant comparison. I design focused work blocks. I reduce unnecessary conversations. I eliminate distractions at the source. I strengthen concentration daily. I value deep thinking. I protect creative clarity. I build cognitive endurance. I assess risk rationally. I avoid emotional investing. I diversify thoughtfully. I understand probability before commitment. I protect downside exposure. I build asymmetric opportunities carefully. I analyze before acting. I seek data over hype. I prioritize structural logic. I build wealth with discipline. I reinforce identity through action. I align behavior with long-term standards. I act even without applause. I maintain internal confidence quietly. I define success on my own terms. I reject societal pressure timelines. I operate with measured ambition. I build long-term relevance. I protect my future positioning. I construct stability through repetition. I prepare my 40s through my 30s. I build assets that compound forward. I strengthen networks that last decades. I develop skills that age well. I reduce fragile dependencies. I expand strategic options. I design flexibility through preparation. I reinforce structural independence. I move with disciplined patience. I build a decade that compounds forward. I make decisions based on structure, not pressure. I slow down before committing to major moves. I define criteria before choosing opportunities. I protect my downside before seeking upside. I avoid decisions made from fear of missing out. I separate urgency from importance. I prioritize clarity over speed. I operate with calm calculation. I protect long-term alignment. I commit only after evaluation. I design my financial architecture intentionally. I categorize income by purpose. I assign roles to every dollar. I build long-term investment discipline. I avoid overexposure to single risks. I rebalance strategically. I review asset allocation regularly. I strengthen retirement positioning early. I increase ownership, not liabilities. I build generational leverage deliberately. I protect my earning power aggressively. I maintain skill relevance. I update my knowledge continuously. I build multiple monetizable competencies. I position myself for evolving markets. I track industry shifts rationally. I increase adaptability without panic. I build intellectual capital. I reduce dependency on one path. I strengthen professional resilience. I manage pressure with internal order. I build routines that stabilize uncertainty. I protect morning clarity from chaos. I avoid reactive communication. I respond after reflection. I reduce emotional spikes in negotiation. I maintain neutral tone under stress. I choose composure over intensity. I protect reputation through restraint. I build authority through steadiness. I strengthen long-term relationship architecture. I discuss money openly and calmly. I align financial expectations clearly. I build partnership transparency. I avoid hidden resentment patterns. I protect shared goals from ego. I invest in mutual growth deliberately. I reduce unnecessary conflict triggers. I choose constructive communication. I build durable emotional systems. I increase operational efficiency. I refine workflows monthly. I track output against input. I eliminate tasks without strategic return. I automate repetitive processes. I strengthen documentation habits. I systemize responsibilities. I reduce friction in daily execution. I design productivity intentionally. I build scalable routines. I analyze setbacks subjectively. I identify structural flaws quickly. I correct patterns without delay. I remove weak links from systems. I protect confidence through correction. I separate identity from temporary failure. I learn fast and adapt precisely. I treat mistakes as engineering feedback. I strengthen resilience through review. I build improvement loops. I protect mental clarity intentionally. I reduce overstimulation. I limit media that weakens focus. I guard attention as capital. I create boundaries for deep work. I disconnect strategically. I reduce comparison cycles. I choose reflection over reaction. I strengthen self-trust through discipline. I protect cognitive stamina. I design my decade intentionally. I define financial milestones clearly. I schedule life reviews annually. I align major decisions with 10-year vision. I avoid drifting without structure. I build forward momentum steadily. I increase strategic optionality. I reduce fragile commitments. I create room for calculated expansion. I build flexibility through preparation. I strengthen the foundation that supports future growth. I build wealth that remains stable. I increase control over my time. I design freedom through discipline. I protect stability before scaling. I build life architecture with intention. I move forward without desperation. I trust disciplined consistency. I reinforce structure daily. I construct a 30s decade that compounds forward. I design my financial life with architectural precision. I structure income to outgrow expenses permanently. I increase assets faster than liabilities. I build systems that compound without supervision. I protect capital from unnecessary exposure. I treat volatility as data, not danger. I rebalance with discipline, not emotion. I invest with thesis, not impulse. I strengthen downside protection first. I grow wealth through calculated positioning. I convert knowledge into scalable value. I build intellectual property deliberately. I strengthen authority through expertise. I expand reach without weakening standards. I choose long-term brand equity over short-term attention. I invest in skills that age well. I reduce dependency on temporary trends. I increase leverage strategically. I monetize competence systematically. I position myself for asymmetric growth. I evaluate opportunity cost rigorously. I say no to preserve structural alignment. I avoid commitments that dilute focus. I allocate time like capital. I prioritize high-leverage moves. I build fewer but stronger initiatives. I eliminate complexity that weakens clarity. I protect strategic simplicity. I strengthen direction through subtraction. I design expansion intentionally. I detach from external validation cycles. I define success through internal metrics. I measure progress by structural strength. I reduce ego-driven decisions. I operate without seeking applause. I build quietly and consistently. I strengthen identity through discipline. I align ambition with architecture. I reject fragile recognition. I cultivate durable confidence. I protect autonomy as a strategic objective. I build income streams that increase freedom. I reduce obligations that weaken leverage. I create options before I need them. I design flexibility into my commitments. I protect my schedule intentionally. I control exposure to unnecessary risk. I strengthen independence through preparation. I expand freedom through discipline. I engineer optionality. I refine negotiation power continuously. I prepare thoroughly before agreements. I understand leverage in every interaction. I protect long-term positioning in contracts. I detach emotion from negotiation. I build win-win structures deliberately. I increase influence through reliability. I align incentives carefully. I strengthen strategic partnerships. I design agreements that compound. I increase operational excellence. I document systems clearly. I delegate with precision. I track key metrics consistently. I audit performance objectively. I eliminate inefficiencies without hesitation. I strengthen execution capacity. I reduce friction in scaling. I protect quality during expansion. I build systems that sustain growth. I manage reputation strategically. I protect credibility rigorously. I avoid impulsive public decisions. I align messaging with values. I build trust slowly and deliberately. I strengthen integrity daily. I maintain composure under scrutiny. I operate with long-term awareness. I protect relational capital. I build durable influence. I sharpen strategic foresight. I analyze macro shifts calmly. I prepare for multiple scenarios. I define exit points in advance. I reduce exposure to emotional cycles. I build resilience into plans. I stress test my systems. I adjust without panic. I think in layers and timelines. I operate from structural anticipation. I prepare my next decade intentionally. I convert discipline into durable leverage. I strengthen wealth foundations systematically. I reduce fragility across all areas. I build a life resistant to volatility. I expand through calculated design. I protect structural momentum. I move with quiet conviction. I reinforce mastery through repetition. I construct a future shaped by structure. I think in decades, not quarters. I design wealth that outlives trends. I protect capital with discipline and clarity. I convert income into lasting assets. I build financial systems that operate independently. I reduce fragility in every decision. I strengthen structural resilience. I prepare before volatility appears. I protect leverage carefully. I expand only from stability. I choose strategic patience over reactive expansion. I reject urgency without structure. I analyze risk in measurable terms. I remove ego from financial moves. I reinforce clarity before commitment. I protect liquidity intentionally. I balance growth with preservation. I build cash flow stability. I review investment theses regularly. I maintain discipline, regardless of emotion. I design professional dominance gradually. I refine competitive advantages. I protect intellectual capital. I build authority through competence. I increase influence with restraint. I expand networks strategically. I strengthen positioning deliberately. I avoid distractions disguised as opportunity. I commit where leverage is strongest. I build reputation through consistency. I engineer autonomy through preparation. I build systems that reduce dependency. I increase freedom through ownership. I protect time with discipline. I reduce commitments that weaken direction. I define non-negotiables clearly. I design my environment for focus. I eliminate friction at the source. I strengthen structural alignment. I operate with deliberate precision. I train composure under pressure. I respond to uncertainty with structure. I separate signal from noise. I strengthen clarity during chaos. I choose reason over reaction. I reduce emotional volatility. I protect internal stability. I manage stress strategically. I reinforce long-term thinking. I build confidence through execution. I refine wealth strategy annually. I optimize asset allocation logically. I increase leverage with caution. I strengthen downside defense. I invest with thesis clarity. I diversify with purpose. I reduce concentrated exposure. I build durable income architecture. I protect financial independence deliberately. I expand strategically, not emotionally. I reinforce leadership in all areas. I communicate standards clearly. I remove inefficiencies decisively. I protect integrity rigorously. I align actions with long-term design. I build authority through discipline. I strengthen accountability consistently. I choose responsibility over comfort. I refine decision frameworks. I operate with internal control. I sharpen foresight continuously. I analyze macro shifts calmly. I define contingency plans. I stress test financial assumptions. I build resilience into projections. I adjust without panic. I protect structural continuity. I anticipate change without fear. I strengthen strategic awareness. I build advantage through preparation. I elevate personal standards deliberately. I detach from comparison timelines. I define success internally. I remove ego from ambition. I pursue mastery patiently. I strengthen mental endurance. I maintain disciplined routines. I protect long-term focus. I choose depth over noise. I reinforce quiet confidence. I construct a life resistant to volatility. I protect leverage before expansion. I design wealth that compounds steadily. I build influence that lasts decades. I increase optionality intentionally. I protect stability in growth phases. I strengthen foundation continuously. I move with strategic control. I operate with calculated conviction. I build a 30s legacy that supports my future decades.